Hello there and welcome to this video of me providing my predictions for the 2023 Indiana High School Football State Championship games. Thanksgiving weekend is quickly approaching, which of course includes state championship football games at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's a beautiful thing and easily one of my favorite weekends of the year. We got 6 state championship games, 3 being played on Black Friday and 3 being played on Saturday. This should be an incredible time, as long as your team doesn't get blown out. Okay, so I'll say it right now, I haven't been dissecting how these teams have been playing every game this season with specific personnel, scheming, time management, etc. I'm not that deep into the lore. I wouldn't classify myself as some high school football genius, but I have done a little bit of studying so that I have a good chance of picking the correct winner. Plus, I'm not trying to embarrass myself here by getting these wrong, giving it my best shot with the knowledge I have. So let's get into this. Going in chronological order, we're starting with the smallest schools. The 1A game starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Adams Central Flying Jets will face the Indianapolis Lutheran Saints for the 3rd consecutive time. Yes, you heard that right. These two teams inevitably compete against the other at Lucas Oil Stadium like it's their destiny. And in both the 2021 and 2022 championship, the Saints were victorious. I'm not surprised these teams are back here again under these circumstances, but I am surprised that neither of them have been bumped up to 2A due to the success factor, especially in regards to Lutheran. Anyways, as for this year's game, it should be relatively even. Throughout the season, Adams Central has won every game by 24 points or more, while Indy Lutheran have had a couple closer games, winning by only 7 points against the likes of South Putnam and Providence. But it's quite apparent that Lutheran had to overcome a tougher schedule while staying undefeated. Winning against Providence and handily doing so against Triton Central culminates into a better resume than beating Heritage, Bluffton, the Carroll Cougars, and North Judson. Those latter 4 teams are Adams Central's best wins, but still don't appear nearly as polished when compared to what Lutheran faced. Additionally, the Saints defense have held every opponent to 14 points or fewer. Based on some of their previous games this season, I'm kind of expecting Lutheran to start a bit sluggish in the first quarter, either trail by 7 points or be tied 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, but in the second quarter is where Lutheran's offense, led by running back Braden Hall and QB Jackson Willis, will take control and give themselves a sufficient lead to hang on to for the remainder of the game. The Flying Jets are a great team, but they haven't faced anyone remotely on Lutheran's level, not since last year's state championship, and if the Saints play like they did against Triton Central in September, then this won't even be a discussion. Fun fact, Indianapolis Lutheran have won 42 football games in a row. They haven't lost since Covenant Christian in November of 2020. I will predict that Lutheran will finally lose a football game in 2024. But as for Black Friday of this year, my official prediction is that Lutheran will win with a final score of 24-14 and achieve the 1A three-peat. The next game on Black Friday will be the 3A State Championship, starting at approximately 3 p.m. The Heritage Hills Patriots will face the Indianapolis Bishop Chatard Trojans. The Trojans are looking to protect their title as they defeated the Lawrenceburg Tigers last year 34-14 and have an undefeated record this year. Heritage Hills will do what they can to stop them. The Patriots do have one loss this season against Gibson Southern, lost by 3 points, but fortunately Heritage Hills got a rematch, and when it mattered most in the semi-state, they defeated Gibson Southern by 3. Gibson Southern, North Posey, and Batesville are the Patriots' 3 best wins this season. But to be frank, all 3 of those teams are inferior to Bishop Chatard. Bishop Chatard is a powerhouse. Back in September, the Trojans managed to beat Cathedral on the road. In my opinion, that is a remarkable win. The only thing that concerns me about Bishop Chatard's schedule results is that they nearly lost to Guerin Catholic 2 weeks later. The Golden Eagles were actually up by 7 points to start the 4th quarter, but Colin Guy caught a touchdown pass in the end zone to equalize and force overtime. In OT, after stopping Guerin on 4th down, BC ran the ball in for 6 points to remain undefeated. They met Guerin Catholic again in the postseason, and that second match was much more solid for Bishop Chatard, winning 21-10 with Colin Guy scoring on 2 receiving touchdowns. So in terms of this championship, it's not impossible for Heritage Hills to pull off the upset, but highly unlikely. Not unless the sophomore quarterback Jed Goldsberry plays out of his mind. Frankly, I don't expect Chatard to make too many mistakes for the Patriots to capitalize off of. So for those reasons, my official prediction is that Indianapolis Bishop Chatard will win with a final score of 41-14, and another great performance from number 1, Colin Guy. Moving on to our last game on Black Friday, the 5A State Championship, set to take place at 7 p.m. The Fort Wayne Snider Panthers will face the Decatur Central Hawks. Right off the bat, this should be the most exciting game of the Friday slate with the closest point differential. Neither of these teams are undefeated. Let's go over Fort Wayne first, who will make their first state football appearance since 2015. Don't even get me started on that 2015 5A game, because that masterpiece deserves a video all on its own. Okay, so the 2023 Panthers acquired 3 solid wins against Warren Central, East Noble, and the Carroll Chargers. Following that is when they suffered their only loss at the hands of Homestead. I understand that it was on the road and the game went into overtime, but on paper that still wasn't a game that Snider should have lost. The Panthers failed to score any touchdowns after halftime, and that cost them. Snider has looked all the better since then as they squeaked past Mishawaka 19-18, and then everything came together for them in the semi-state to pull off a dominant shutout victory against Maryville 28-0, with Uriah Buchanan scoring on 3 of the 4 touchdowns. That is easily their most impressive win of the season, and I'm a little astonished they beat the Pirates that concretely. That obviously gives them a ton of confidence and momentum to get the job done Friday night. Now let's talk about their opponents, the Decatur Central Hawks. Earlier in the season, August 25th to be exact, Decatur Central got a massive statement win by beating New Palestine 43-42. Bo Polston threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for 1 TD, while Impo Dodo had 2 rushing touchdowns of his own. But the Hawks stumbled immediately after that by losing back-to-back games against Whiteland and Martinsville. Neither of those teams are bad per se, but their games Decatur Central should have won strictly from a talent perspective, but got outplayed one way or another. Decatur Central has definitely shown improvement since by winning every game after that. Some of these victories should have been by a larger margin in my opinion. For example, I'm more impressed with Perry Meridian, a team who finished with a 2-8 record for only losing 14-7 to Decatur Central, than I am impressed with the Hawks in that match. It's simply a game many expected to be more one-sided than what it turned out to be. I do want to give Decatur Central a lot of credit for their 3 most recent postseason games. First Friday of November, the Hawks defeated a really good Harrison Raiders football team 34-17. Second Friday of November, the Hawks were able to redeem themselves by defeating Whiteland this time, and in dominant fashion. Winning by 34 does classify as dominant. That brings us to the third Friday of November, where they pulled off the upset against a super strong Bloomington South team and won 24-12 to punch their ticket to Lucas Oil Stadium. So, as you could probably tell, both these teams have been playing extraordinary recently, which is what makes this outcome difficult to predict. At least a 10% chance this 5A game goes into overtime. I do believe Snider's star running back Uriah Buchanan will have a huge game. I'm thinking 120 plus yards and 2 touchdowns, if not 3. So my official prediction is that with number 1 Buchanan on the field, Fort Wayne Snider will find a way to barely get the W. Final score 28-27. That will conclude the Friday predictions, and now we will jump forward to the early Saturday game. At 11 a.m., the 2A state championship game has the North Posey Vikings taking on the Knights of Fort Wayne Bishop Luers. When analyzing what North Posey has done this season, it's looking stable. In my opinion, all their notable wins took place in October and November. The Southridge Raiders, Paoli Rams, and Southmont Montes were all quality wins, but without question, their best win of the season was against Triton Central in the quarterfinals, winning 28-13 as the visitors. That achievement is not easy by any stretch. Honestly, I'm amazed that the Vikings beat Triton Central by 15 points, considering they only beat Evansville Mater Dei by 1 point a couple weeks prior. No offense, but the current Mater Dei team is nowhere near as strong as it was in years past. A 3-8 record kind of speaks for itself, but either way, Mater Dei obviously fought real hard against North Posey. We have to talk about it though. The Vikings' one and only loss was on the road against Heritage Hills, a 10-0 shutout back in mid-September. This is the same Heritage Hills team who will be playing Bishop Chatard in the 3A championship. It would have been nice if North Posey scored some points against Heritage Hills, but I can't fault them too much for it, seeing as how successful Heritage Hills has been playing this season. In fact, from a defensive standpoint, holding the Patriots to just 10 points is largely impressive, as Heritage Hills has scored at least 23 points in all of their other games. As for Fort Wayne Bishop Luers, their season started off with an 0-2 record. They lost badly to East Noble and New Haven with scores of 45-7 and 36-7 respectively. Both those schools are larger, being in 4A, but I can only give them a pass for losing to East Noble. Losing by 29 to New Haven for your home opener is no bueno. New Haven is for sure a good team, but in retrospect, this game should have been more competitive. Bishop Luers was able to earn themselves a neat 6-game winning streak against some other Fort Wayne schools. In my opinion, their best victory within that streak was an overtime thriller against Fort Wayne Bishop Dwenger with a score of 29-28. Similar to the 5A Fort Wayne Snider team, the Knights' winning streak was snapped by a 3-point loss against Homestead. Given the size of Luers compared to Snider, I don't hold the Homestead loss against them too harshly, but it's still a loss that could have been avoided had they played just slightly better in those final 3 quarters. I also gotta complain about how Bishop Luers was trailing at halftime to Churubusco, a lousy team who was 2-7 at the time. It's kind of atrocious that Fort Wayne needed to pull off a second half comeback to prevent an early elimination and a massive upset, but they managed to do that, and the 11-point victory against Busco looks more presentable from an outside perspective. But their two most recent victories against Bluffton and Lafayette Central Catholic are 100% worth commending, because both of their opponents had a legit chance to win it all with 10 wins on the season. Bishop Luers' defense played astounding by only allowing 7 points from each of them. That's pretty cool, considering both teams, Bluffton and Lafayette Central Catholic, were averaging over 30 points prior to their loss against the Knights. As for my 2A prediction, I'm confident that North Posey is the better team and will win by double digits. Final score 28-14. I believe the junior, Jed Galvin, should definitely score at least one touchdown for the Vikings in their victory. Now we got the 4A championship, estimated to start at 3 in the afternoon. The Northwood Panthers versus the East Central Trojans. Straight up, this match is going to be a blowout. I'll say my official score prediction for the end of the analysis, but yeah, East Central will demolish Northwood. I already feel bad for the Northwood community who are going to have their football hopes and dreams crushed this Saturday. My condolences to y'all. Let's go over what these teams have done so far this season, starting with Northwood. After beginning the season with 3 wins, the Panthers suffered back-to-back losses. Both Northridge and Warsaw are productive teams, but nowhere near as great when compared to East Central. 2 weeks later, Northwood came through with an overtime victory against Mishawaka, so I gotta give them kudos for that. Then, in the postseason, they defeated Northridge by 3 points after losing to them in the regular season. Next week, in the quarterfinals, they beat New Prairie, the 4A runner-ups from last year. And then, in the semi-state, Northwood eliminated the Leo Lions to advance. Northwood should be proud of themselves for reaching the state championship, but as I go over what East Central has accomplished so far, you'll probably realize how unlikely Northwood's chances are of winning on Saturday. East Central won the 4A state championship in 2022 against New Prairie 37-7. The Trojans have gotten even better since then. In September, they won 38-28 against Archbishop Moeller, an Ohio school in the top 10 of their state. 2 weeks later, they traveled to Batesville and obliterated the Bulldogs 42-0. Batesville is a pretty good team, by the way, because their only other loss was against Heritage Hills in the 3A quarterfinals. East Central's only flaw this season, if you can call it that, is allowing Martinsville to score 20 points on them in the second quarter. We'll just refer to that as an anomaly, because aside from Martinsville and that Super Moeller team from Ohio, every opponent they faced this season has scored either 0 points or 7 points. Their most impressive win was their semi-state performance against the New Palestine Dragons. I knew New Pal would lose, but a 49-0 shutout is absurd, and that really goes to show you how brilliant East Central has become. The Trojans have 2 incredible running backs, number 15 Josh Ringer and number 36 Dylan Maxwell. I'm fully predicting that Josh Ringer will score at least 2 touchdowns and have over 150 rushing yards, and that Dylan Maxwell will score at least 1 with over 70 rushing yards. As for my score prediction, East Central will win 48-7. I expect one of their 7 extra point attempts to be unsuccessful, and then Northwood will score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, probably once the JV members are in on defense to get some playing time. For the record, I don't want to see the 4A championship be this dominant. I like football games a lot more when the teams are evenly balanced. Let me put it this way. I believe both East Central and Bishop Chatard from 3A both deserve to win their respective state championships, but from an entertainment and competitive standpoint, it would be much more fun to watch East Central and Bishop Chatard compete against each other for one title, while Heritage Hills and Northwood compete for the other title. But it is what it is, so congratulations to East Central for another triumphant championship. Last but not least, we have the biggest schools playing Saturday night for the 6A championship, as the Center Grove Trojans will play. Oh wait, never mind. Center Grove is not actually in the championship this year. Not gonna lie, less than a week ago, I was fully convinced Center Grove would defeat the Westfield Shamrocks again, but not this time. Instead, we got the other semi-state competitors who managed to defeat Center Grove in overtime and defeat Westfield in overtime. Put your hands together for the Crown Point Bulldogs and the Ben Davis Giants. Major credit to both teams for advancing to Lucas Oil Stadium after escaping in overtime and by scoring more than 36 points. I'll start my assessment on Crown Point, who is still undefeated. First week in September, they beat the Maryville Pirates 39-6. Great result in my book. 3 weeks later, Crown Point defeated last year's 5A champions Valparaiso 19-14, who were still a strong team this season. But their two most recent wins were easily their most impressive. It's not easy to beat the Penn Kingsmen in football, but Crown Point found a way to do it, 34-33. Then, semi-state, Westfield in double overtime is the explanation point for these Bulldogs. So, there's little room for me to criticize considering every game was a W for them. But if I had to pick one thing, it's that Crown Point should have scored more against Chesterton. Chesterton is not very good this year, certainly by 5A standards. This Chesterton defense allowed on average 22.5 points per game, and yet Crown Point, the best team Chesterton faced, only scored 21 against them, which is below that average. That should be at least mildly concerning, but anyways, let's switch gears towards Ben Davis's evaluation. Ben Davis started off this season with a bang. Just like East Central, they got a giant victory against that super team from Ohio, Archbishop Moeller, winning 49-28 in the Buckeye State. 3 weeks later, Ben Davis played another out-of-state team, IMG Academy, and lost 34-14. It's not a terrible loss considering IMG Academy is probably the best high school football team in the state of Florida, and they're high up in the national rankings with a 10-0 record. The following week, Ben Davis played Warren Central, which is nice, because they won. Personally, I would have liked the winning margin to be a little bit more than 3, but moving on, the Giants blew out Lawrence North and Carmel, which are two great teams. 2 thumbs up for those stellar victories. The winning margin against Lawrence Central was only 3, but still a win nonetheless. Massive statement win on the last Friday of October as they beat Brownsburg 28-25. I won't complain about that 3-point victory because it's impressive that they won given how tough Brownsburg is and that was the first game of the postseason. 2 weeks later, another 3-point victory against a worthy opponent, that being the Cathedral Fighting Irish. Then, in the semi-state, their best victory of the season, 3-point victory in overtime against the defending 6A champions, eliminating Center Grove in a thrilling fashion. So this 6A state championship should be a ton of excitement. I gotta go with Ben Davis to win by 3 points, 34-31. I'll also predict that Thomas Godkowski, the quarterback for Ben Davis and Miami Redhawks commit, will throw for at least 2 touchdowns and achieve 200 or more passing yards. I'm expecting Ben Rudolph to make every kick for the Giants, including a couple field goals. I feel pretty good about those predictions. So to recap, on Friday in 1A, I'm predicting the Lutheran Saints will win 24-14. In 3A, I'm predicting Bishop Chatard will win 41-14. In 5A, I'm predicting Snider Panthers will win 28-27. In the AFC East, I'm predicting the Miami Dolphins will win 24-10. Let me just throw that prediction in there as well, since that game is also happening on Black Friday. On Saturday in 2A, I'm predicting North Posey will win 28-14. In 4A, East Central will win. I'm predicting a score of 48-7, and last game in 6A, I'm predicting Ben Davis will win 34-31. Please let me know your thoughts or predictions on these games in the comments section. Even if it's just a prediction on one of the games or which team you're rooting for, I'd love to hear it. If you want to watch the broadcast of these championship football games at home, just as an FYI, it costs $15 per game or $20 for the 6-game all-access pass. That can be done on ihsaatv.org. So that will conclude this video. I do plan on making another video once these games are over to go over how accurate my predictions were and how exciting these championship games turned out to be. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget to predict how many touchdowns Tyreek Hill will score against the Jets on your way out. I'm thinking just one, and I hope to see you next time.